A half-naked woman suddenly wakes up to find her lower body missing and mechanical components connected beneath her chest. Just as she is about to break down, operators in the control room press a button to begin decommissioning her. A robotic arm cracks open her skull and extracts the artificial brain inside. This cybernetically modified woman is named Yun Jung-yi. In this era, Earth has been severely devastated by climate change. Seeking to migrate to outer space, humanity built dozens of orbital shelters between Earth and the Moon. However, a civil war over scarce resources has raged among these shelters for decades. Under these conditions, Yun Jung-yi rose to become a legendary mercenary, celebrated for her military strategy and near invincibility. However, a failed mission left her severely injured and in a vegetative state. A military artificial intelligence development company seeks to use Jung-yi's brain data to create the ultimate AI soldier. Seo-hyun, the newly appointed head of the project, dedicates herself entirely to this mission, wanting to make Jung-yi an eternal hero for the Allied forces. Yet, as shown in the opening scene, despite numerous cloning and simulation attempts, Jung-yi repeatedly fails to pass the final test, forcing Seo-hyun to decommission one clone after another. A newly arrived assistant, who is an avid fan of Jung-yi, expresses regret over discarding the clones. He transferred from headquarters specifically to work on the Jung_E project. Hearing his admiration brings Seo-hyun a sense of comfort. It is revealed that she is actually Jung-yi's biological daughter. As a child, Seo-hyun suffered from a severe illness, and Jung-yi became a mercenary solely to fund her life-saving surgery. Tragically, Jung-yi fell into a coma following her failed mission and has remained asleep for 35 years. Now an adult, Seo-hyun joined the Jung_E project, hoping to find a way to save her mother. However, the project has yielded little progress, and Seo-hyun herself is terminally ill with cancer, having only 3 months left to live. Her doctor suggests that she clone her brain data and transfer it into a prosthetic body. But because the procedure is highly expensive, Seo-hyun can only afford Type C. Under Type C, the procedure is free, and the family even receives financial compensation, but the patient forfeits all human rights. Just like Jung-yi, who was registered under Type C, her brain data was sold to the corporation to be cloned and experimented on at will. Seo-hyun tells the doctor she will consider it and then goes to visit her mother's original body. While Jung-yi's aging, original body lies in a stasis pod. Her brain data is continuously uploaded into young, powerful prosthetic bodies. This current version is Test Subject 18. Compared to previous iterations, Jung_E number 18 shows more stability. Seo-hyun runs Jung_E number 18 through a combat simulation, but Sang-hoon, the laboratory director, abruptly halts the test. He orders the staff to fire live rounds directly at Subject 18 to test her reaction, and the technicians reluctantly comply. As Jung_, a number 18 screams in pain. The staff, with the sole exception of Seo-hyun, remain completely indifferent, viewing the clone as a mere piece of equipment rather than a human being. Next, the combat assessment begins. 2 robotic opponents are deployed into the simulation chamber, forcing the wounded Jung-e number 18 to struggle to defend herself. Monitoring data shows her vitals and resolve dropping. Just when the researchers assume the test is another failure, an unidentified data stream suddenly spikes. Jung_E number 18 bursts with unexpected energy and unleashes a fierce counterattack, showing flashes of her legendary mercenary past. However, a moment later, a robot shoots her in the head, abruptly ending the test. Fortunately, they have finally made a breakthrough. A previously dormant area of the brain has been activated, which could hold the key to developing the combat AI. Sang-hoon urges the team to push harder, noting they must present convincing results to headquarters the following day. The next day, the team travels to headquarters. Their train passes through a city submerged by rising sea levels and enters a massive, dimly lit facility. Sang-hoon leads them to meet the chairman, only to run into his rival, Lee Si-yeon, a director from the product development division. She is there to review the Jung_E project on behalf of the chairman, a sign that the corporation is preparing to abandon the slow-moving initiative. Sensing a bleak future for their work, the team returns to the lab in low spirits. Sang-hoon is furious about impending budget cuts, Yet he remains convinced that the chairman will not abandon the combat AI project. Soon after, the chairman pays a personal visit to the facility. Sang-hoon rushes to welcome him and brings Seo-hyun along to the office. However, the moment they enter, the chairman remotely deactivates Sang-hoon. It turns out that Sang-hoon is also an android built from cloned brain data. The chairman wishes to speak with Seo-hyun in private. He reveals that peace negotiations are underway and the civil war is nearing its end. As a defense contractor, the company must pivot. He remarks that manufacturing thermal cups is more profitable than developing combat AI. The company plans to transition to service and commercial AIs, meaning the Young_E project must be terminated immediately. Seo-hyun is devastated, her long-held hope on the verge of shattering, yet she refuses to give up. Sang-hoon, once reactivated, is also unwilling to let the project end in failure, but their research has hit a bottleneck. The clone still cannot survive the simulation, repeatedly falling to the combat droids. Determined to unlock the secret of the brain's unknown region, Sang-hoon decides to subject Clone 22 to extreme stress. He orders the technicians to sever Young_E number 22's arm. As the mechanical blade cuts through, the clone's pain indicators skyrocket, but the mystery brain region remains inactive. Frustrated, Sang-hoon storms into the chamber himself and repeatedly shoots Young_E number 22. Distressed, Seo-hyun manually shuts down the clone and demands that Sang-hoon stop. In response, Sang-hoon aims his gun at Seo-hyun. After a tense standoff, a message from the chairman summons Sang-hoon away. Unwilling to let her mother suffer any further, Seo-hyun instructs her team to compile the remaining data and prepare to shut down the Young_E project. She then takes a terminal into the simulation lab to review the records of the various test subjects. To her shock, she discovers that one of her researchers has checked out Young-Yi's brain data without authorization. Seo-hyun goes to investigate and hears loud music blasting from the room. She rings the bell, prompting the researcher to hurriedly dress and open the door. Pushing past him, Seo-hyun is horrified to find a partially unclothed clone of Young-Yi inside. She immediately covers the clone with a coat and, in a fit of rage, grabs the researcher by the throat. Upon questioning, she learns that the corporation plans to repurpose the war hero's brain data for commercial entertainment and domestic models. Because the company legally owns Young-Yi's brain data, Seo-hyun has no authority to stop them. Silently, she walks into the control room. The lights suddenly flick on, revealing Sang-hoon sitting on a couch. He is equally bitter about the project's cancellation, but notes that headquarters has given them a hard deadline. The final simulation must be completed by tomorrow. That night, Seo-hyun secretively modifies Young-Yi number 22's settings, dialing down her pain receptors before activating her. Seo-hyun lies to the clone, concealing the cybernetic modifications, and gently says, "You were severely wounded by the enemy, and you don't have much time left. It is best to close your eyes and rest now." Suddenly, the mystery region of the clone's brain lights up again. Because Young-Yi number 22's memory is still frozen at the moment of her final mission 35 years ago, she believes Seo-hyun's words. Thinking she is dying on a hospital bed, she pleads with Seo-hyun to check on her daughter's surgery. Seo-hyun realizes that even as she faced death 35 years ago, her mother's sole focus was her daughter's recovery. The mysterious brain region that unlocked Young-Yi's extraordinary combat potential was her maternal love. The driving force behind her invincibility was her desperate desire to survive and return to her child. While technology can replicate brain data, it cannot replicate the true essence of a mother's love. Overcome with grief, Seo-hyun weeps and resolves to save her mother's consciousness. The next day, Seo-hyun sends her staff away on errands, revokes corporate access to the terminal, and deletes the specific neural pathway containing the memories of her childhood illness to prevent the company from weaponizing or exploiting her maternal love. She explains the truth of the situation to Young_E number 22 and prepares her to escape the facility. Sang-hoon arrives to oversee the final simulation. The combat program begins as it has dozens of times before. Although Young-Yi performs exceptionally well, she is ultimately overwhelmed and defeated by the combat droids. Disappointed by the outcome, Sang-hoon leaves the room. However, a technician notices that the clone's brain activity during the final blow was unusual, showing a delayed reaction. Sang-hoon dismisses this and exits. Technicians enter the simulation chamber to escort Young-Yi back to storage. Meanwhile, sensing something is amiss, Sang-hoon returns to the control room and orders a replay of the simulation's final moments. Zooming in, they discover that the lethal shot had actually missed. Young_E number 22 had faked her defeat to end the test early. Sang-hoon triggers an emergency lockdown. The guards escorting the clone are caught off guard and quickly subdued by Young-yi. Taking their keycard, she flees into the facility. With the police forces minutes away, Sang-hoon activates a horde of combat droids from the inventory to intercept her. Seo-hyun utilizes the chaos to access the main server and purge Jung-yi's master brain file, ensuring her mother's consciousness can never be replicated again. Meanwhile, Jung-yi accidentally stumbles into a storage facility filled with hundreds of identical mechanical bodies bearing her own face, a surreal and eerie sight. As the combat droids arrive, Jung-yi blends in among the rows of identical shells. Confused by the identical faces, the droids begin attacking at random. A fierce battle erupts. Jung-yi ambushes the droids, but they recover quickly and counterattack. She is pinned to the ground, narrowly evading devastating blows as the combat escalates. Meanwhile, heavily armed police droids storm the facility. Exhausted and outnumbered, Jung-yi is slammed into the ground and dragged across the floor, her situation growing increasingly dire. Relying on sheer willpower, she continues to fight, but the waves of enemies are relentless. A droid pins her down and attempts to tear off her arm. She manages to disable it using a laser cutter and kicks off its head. Just as a powerful new droid lifts Jung-yi into the air, Seo-hyun arrives and shuts it down. When the police forces catch up, they shoot and seemingly destroy the rogue clone. Soon after, a service droid is seen helping an ostensibly injured Seo-hyun leave the scene. However, the police review the surveillance footage and discover that Seo-hyun had transferred Jung-yi's neural data into the helper droid. The robot she is leaving with is actually her mother. By the time the police realize this, Seo-hyun and Jung-yi have boarded an evacuation train. However, Sang-hoon is waiting for them. He shoots and wounds Seo-hyun, prompting Jung-yi to launch a furious counterattack. During the struggle, Sang-hoon's synthetic skin is torn away, exposing his underlying mechanical endoskeleton. Stunned by the realization that he is also an android, he feels deeply betrayed by the chairman and channels his rage into attacking Jung-yi. A brutal duel ensues inside the train car. During the fight, Sang-hoon accidentally damages the control console, causing the train to malfunction. He throws Jung-yi against the rear window and punches her out of the cabin toward the abyss below. However, Jung-yi clings to the train's exterior and manages to kick Sang-hoon back inside. Police droids catch up to the train and open fire, joining the fray. Sang-hoon uses the distraction to shoot Jung-yi. Seo-hyun attempts to intervene but is knocked unconscious. Seeing her daughter in danger, Jung-yi's protective instincts are triggered once more. Fighting at peak performance, she rams Sang-hoon out of the train car. However, he clings to a police droid to pull himself back inside and launches a surprise attack. As they grapple, the damaged train crashes, causing the car to tilt sharply over a precipice. Seo-hyun regains consciousness, fires a grappling cable to secure the falling Jung-yi, and pulls her to safety, while Sang-hoon plummets, screaming into the abyss. After pulling her exhausted mother to safety, the train grinds to a halt as power fails, ending the chaos. Seo-hyun urges Jung-yi to flee. By erasing the memories of her daughter, Seo-hyun hopes to free her mother from the heavy burden of maternal sacrifice, allowing her to live solely for herself. Despite the memory wipe, Jung-yi approaches Seo-hyun and gently rubs her cheek against hers, a habit from Seo-hyun's childhood. Jung-yi then leaps from the train and escapes into the wilderness. Though they may never meet again, a quiet bond remains between them. The latest work by Yeon Sang-ho, the director of Train to Busan, and also the final film of Kang Soo-yeon, who played the role of Seo-hyun. On the surface, it is a sci-fi action thriller, but at its heart, it is an exploration of the mother-daughter bond. Seo-hyun's decision to erase Jung-yi's memories of her daughter and set her free reflects a profound, selfless wish that her mother can finally lay down the burdens of motherhood, leave behind decades of sacrifice, and live the rest of her days in true freedom, living entirely for herself.